A couple of months ago, I collected this crash-damaged 2015 Ferrari California T from Copart. It was bought as an engine start program, meaning you can start the engine up, but you cannot drive it. I'd seen this before online though on Sam Crack's channel, and it turns out the auction house just didn't know how to put a Ferrari into gear. I couldn't see how this damage would have affected the gearbox, so I thought we could be onto a similar scenario. I tricked the battery charger into charging the battery, fired her up, and sure enough, I was able to put the Ferrari into gear using the paddle shifts and drive it back towards the car lift. From there, I stripped it down to assess what new parts I was going to need for the build, and that was the last you saw of the Ferrari. Well, now that isn't to say I haven't been busy. This car has not been neglected. I have, in the meantime, whilst I've been working on the Aston and the Ford, I've been sourcing all the parts I'm going to need for this, and that hasn't been quite so easy. Structural parts, for instance, Ferrari won't sell those to your average Joe like me, or potentially you watching at home. Nope, you have to source them through other methods, let's just say. So they'll only sell it to a Ferrari body shop. I'm obviously not that. And then they'll also determine that they have to do all the repairs. So not just the structural parts that have had to do the windscreen, airbags, etc. And you can see the bill just mounting up. But I've been sourcing quite a few parts, as you can see, stacked away up here. So anyway, I'm going to show you a little bit. We're going to go back in time to me collecting the parts, but obviously if you're not interested in that, here's where you can skip to in the video. If you're not interested in where I source the parts and how much they cost, etc., then yeah, skip to that bit. But if you are, well then, let's jump into it. Well, welcome back to another video, and you actually joined me on the way to collect some Ferrari parts. Now, I was planning today to do some editing for the Aston, get that ready for a video, because we got one more video to come on that, just finishing up the final bits, as well as finishing up the bits on the Cosworth. I'm hoping within the next 2 weeks, both cars will be done and listed for sale. So my attention is also starting to turn towards the Ferrari, and I think that means it's time to kind of bring you up to date with where we're at. So I'm currently on my way to get a bumper and a bonnet as well. Now, with both of these, I think I've got incredibly good deals. The bumper, I've been struggling to find Ferrari California T bumpers for a certain price. Most of them, I mean, you can get them new, I think somewhere between £2,500 to £4,000. And I thought, you know, I'll just hold off and I'll just wait to see if anything comes on eBay. And sure enough, we've had one come on today for £1,000. And yeah, I mean, it's been primered. It needs, to be honest, not very well, so it's going to need sorting out anyway. But even if I bought a bumper new, I would have to respray it, and to do that I'd probably sand it all down, etc. Anyway, so I don't really mind doing that. Now, I've offered the guy £800 and he's accepted on the condition I go today, so that's where I'm off to collect that today. At the same time, the bonnet has come in stock. Now, with the bonnet, I've ordered most of the parts from Scuderia, which we'll get onto in a second, but the bonnet quote, the cheapest quote I could get for the bonnet from Scuderia was, I think it was £2,400. There'll be a number with the actual figure now, but that just seemed too much to me, so I started looking around. Now, they don't sell many of these second-hand. They seem to be quite niche, quite rare. So what I've actually done is I've looked around all the different websites, and I managed to find Euro Spares, who were happy to sell me one for £1,500, a brand new one as well. So we're also on our way to go and collect that now. But yeah, that was a bit of a steal. But anyway, I'm going to go collect those. You'll see some footage in a sec of me collecting those and how it looks. I've got the trailer loaded up because the bonnet is too big to fit in a car. But yeah, we'll cut to that. Well, bumper picked up, got the seat right forward, and it just about fit in. I'll give you a proper show of it when we get back to the warehouse, but on to get the bonnet now. On to Colchester, I believe. I then collected the bonnet from up in Colchester, and because of its size, I opted to take the trailer and strap it down, as it was clearly too big to fit in a car. As you can see, the bumper alone was a tight fit in my car. As you can see there, we've got the bonnet as well, left it in the crate just for transport, made it a bit easier to strap down as well. A lot easier than the DB11 bonnet, and gosh, super light as well, which I was really surprised by. I'll actually be able to lift that probably on my own. But yeah, anyway, let's get back. And here is our bumper. Which side is the bottom? That's the top. Needs sanding anyway. If you have a look at this, I think for £800 we've got a very good deal here. There's sort of scuffs all around it, but they are predominantly flat. I think that one's actually the only lumped one. Everything else that we can feel or see has sort of been previously prepped and sanded. So it's looking quite nice. Well, not to look at, but it feels quite nice, and this is all smooth. All around here, all smooth. And similarly up here. So just one little bit to make smooth down here, that bit there. But other than that, I think between these are about 2.5 to 4 grand. I think this is a very good deal. And here is the bonnet back at the warehouse. Oddly didn't come with any covers for these corners, but drove very slowly. It's made it there in alright condition. There was one scratch I picked up, which is just down in that bottom corner down there. Point an arrow to it. But other than that, 1,500 quid, brand new bonnet, a lot better than 2,400. And well, a couple weeks later, you can see I've just collected the Ferrari parts from Scuderia. Just missing the passenger airbag, but everything else is here. Structural parts are on their way over from Poland as we speak. So we're gonna be able to start this very, very soon. 18th of April today. Hopefully by beginning of May, we'll be ready to go. Just got back from collecting the parts, and our structural parts from Poland have arrived whilst I've been in Scotland. So that is amazing news. So once I get back from my holiday at the end of April, we can get straight into the Ferrari. And so collecting the parts actually didn't end up being too bad, because I was able to tie it in with collecting the Range Rover Classic, and I was up there anyway, so might as well just go collect the parts then. That wasn't too bad, but D-Day is here. It's time to get started, and this is where I'm gonna start. And that is with our interior, well, and windscreen. So we're gonna start by taking this windscreen out. I've got a nice bit of kit for removing this. Obviously we're gonna have to remove all the trim down here first, isolate this, and then we've got a sort of machine that will get all the old sort of sealant out, and then we should just be able to lift this off. We've got a new windscreen, which is that box right there. And then once that's done, it's going to give us actually pretty good access to this dash. This dash doesn't look in a terrible way, but I was almost tempted to do it myself, but obviously I'm not going to restitch it. I've had a bit of a look into it. There's different pressure that you have to do when you stitch these up. Otherwise, when the airbag's deployed, they won't actually tear the leather. So it's important that it's stitched up properly. So sadly, do have to pay for that. And I'm sourcing quotes for that in a minute, but the first one was £2,600 plus VAT. So I'm hoping other people do it cheaper. And I've just realized, whilst I was filming that, there's this car in the background here. Now, that's not actually a car that's going to be on the channel. That's just something I'm going to be working on my own. It's just a non-runner Land Rover, Range Rover Sport autobiography, full service history, etc. Really cool. But obviously, got to pay for this warehouse, so I'm trying to get more than one project on the go at a time. And so I'm also working on this one too, but it's not going to be on the channel. It's got some electrical issues, and I'm working through those at the moment. But anyway, back to the Ferrari, and in order to get the windscreen out, I'm going to need to expose it. So I'm starting off here by removing the bonnet. Once I'd removed the trim, I'm not sure if it's a heat shield or a sound deadener or both. But anyway, once I removed that, it exposed the hoses for the washer jets, and these I just had to feed back through the holes. And sure enough, we were almost there. Now that is all disconnected from the bonnet anyway, so should be able to unbolt this bonnet and take it off. Now, just so I don't cause any more damage to any other parts, I'm just going to get the forklift here with a tie and just hold it in position as well. A few of you have seen me do this, and yeah, just to be safe. And so with the ties holding the bonnet in position, I then removed the 4 bolts holding the bonnet to the struts, and hey presto, the bonnet was off. Well, now we've got the bonnet off. Before I carry on with stripping down the bits down here, I know some of you will be wanting to know how much this has all cost me, so let's jump into that. And we've got a whiteboard now. Okay, well obviously a good place to start is how much I paid for the car. Well, as you can see here, I bought it for £35,500, but you do have fees to pay with that as well. And once that was all said and done, you see it was £38,222.80. Ferrari rebuild. So, purchase cost, like I just said, £38,222.80. Now I ordered most of the parts from Scuderia Car Parts. Floris, who is a subscriber, managed to get me a discount with them through a lovely chap called Ritesh. So thank you to Floris, big shout out to you. Gave me near enough 5% off everything, and every penny counts when you're doing a rebuild like this. You sneeze? Oh, the dust in here always gets me. But obviously you've got it on your screen now, what we're looking at. So we got the front crash box cross member. Now that's the bit the struts connect to. So that's the bit that sits down. Photo now. Bumper grille, obviously the old one was completely mangled. New windscreen. Air duct. For the life of me I can't remember what that looked like. Left hand filter cover. Airbags. So interestingly with this one, I was allowed to buy the airbag from the driver's side, and they did actually initially accept the passenger airbag as well, and everything else arrived in stock. Collected that, except this passenger airbag, which I'm now told Ferrari won't sell to your average Joe like me. It needs to be to an approved body shop, which is a bit strange. It seems like a bit of a cop-out, but I did manage to find one from, well, a garage that specialises in working on Ferraris up in Birmingham. Managed to collect that for £600. Now obviously I'm doing this as a company, I am VAT registered, I pay VAT every quarter, so I've been able to claim a lot of this back. So I'm looking at the unit price, but obviously I appreciate those who are just doing this on their driveway will probably have to pay the VAT, but I haven't in this instance, so I'm not including those charges. So £4,130 minus 510 gives me £3,620, but then we need to add on 600 for the passenger cushion airbag, which I wasn't able to source separately. What have I done with my pen? There it is. That's going to bring us to £4,220. We'll go Scuderia and airbag. Bring it closer. Scuderia and airbag, £4,220. Now there's quite a few parts there, so I actually think that's quite a reasonable cost. So add to this, the bonnet you saw me collect from Euro Spares, that was £1,517.07. So, bonnet. £1,517.07. On that same trip, you obviously saw me collect the bumper. Now, these were really hard to find. They were sort of looking about £2 grand, blah, 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 or 1,500 for sort of slightly damaged ones. We managed to find the one that I showed you for, it was listed for 999. I offered the guy 800 quid, you know, can collect today, kind of thing. And he actually accepted that because he wanted it out. So that's quite good. Bumper, £800. I did then actually place another order from Euro Spares. Now, I'll show you the invoice on the screen, but basically these are for the bits at the front that sort of sit at the beginning of the engine bay by the bumper. These were damaged. If I've got a photo or some of the old video clip, I'll show you that now. Anyway, those parts, they came to, with the delivery, what's that? Let me do some maths. That comes to £73.25. So, Euro Spares really do competitive prices as well on there, and really easy to deal with, same as Scuderia. £73.25. And then of course we have the structural parts which we sourced from Poland. Again, invoice on your screen. As you can see, we paid 800 for one, 400 for the other, and then £50 to have it delivered. So that's £1,250. So, Poland structural, £1,250. There's no VAT on that, sadly, so I've had to pay that amount. £1,250. And so, all in so far, we are on, we'll go here, 46,000. And £83 and 12 pence. That's where we're up to so far. Now, I'm hoping to be able to keep the cost close to that, because I imagine once this is done, I might well be able to sell it for around £70,000 or maybe just over. Depends on the quality of the build, I guess, and how cheeky I'm thinking. But anyway, that's the cost. Thought you might be interested to follow that. I know a lot of you wanted to know the cost on the Cosworth and the DB11. They'll come when they're done, but this one, I'm gonna let you in from the outset. But anyway, back to this. So picking up where I left off, I can now take the trim covers off, which can just be removed with a size 4 Allen key. I then remove the wipers by undoing the bolts that hold them on and sliding them off. This part ended up just pulling out, but I've just realised I didn't have the camera on. But that's pretty straightforward. I'll show you on the other side anyway, but I think to make my life a little bit easier, I'm going to take this strut off as well. And yeah, should make life a lot easier when it comes to removing this. Let's do it. Nice and easy. Voila. Now obviously a big part of this is not losing the parts, so if it's possible to put the bolts back in towards the chassis or something that I'm not going to be taking off, I do that. So these bolts are a perfect example. I am keeping everything else labelled and wrapped up safe and sound, but it's better to not take the chance. So I'm actually just going to screw these back into the hole, and then I know they're not going anywhere. And so with the screws secured, the windscreen was now exposed from the outside, which just leaves the interior to start stripping down before we can remove the screen. Now I said I'd bought a special tool for this, and that is, in fact, the equalizer. Had this shipped over from America, also glass removal tool. It's quite simple. You sort of get that wedged in the gap down here, and it'll sort of just start cutting away at the old mastic. And this should be a lot cleaner than when I removed the windscreen on the DB11, which involved a lot of vacuuming after. Well, this is the device. It looks like it's moved around a bit in transit. But quite simply, this will attach onto the end of this power tool. Cut. Even comes with some safety goggles, so that's quite handy. Bugger. It is an American lead, so I'm going to have to go get an adapter. But thankfully, I actually had an adapter lying around. But anyway, onto the interior. Well, just to make it a little bit easier here, I've cut the airbags down to size, so they're not overhanging so much now, but obviously we've got to get this all removed now. As you can see, there's screws in here. This will all unscrew as well. I'm guessing it's just screws in there. Then we need to remove the A-pillar here. So yeah, got quite a bit to do before we can get onto this. Well, A-pillar came out very easily. There weren't any sort of airbag signs or anything like that. So I assumed that they just had to be held in on clips. And sure enough, one clip there, one clip there, one clip there and there. And out she came. Pressing on, I removed the sun visors, which were just held on with a couple of screws, as I showed you. I then removed the plastic trim in the middle, and I did this as carefully as I could, as when they're on clips, they just always feel like they're going to break. It feels horrible. Thankfully, it didn't break though, and it revealed a few more screws that needed to come out. With the screws out, the middle section just comes out, revealing yet more screws. The mirror itself was on clips, which again felt horrible to remove. But with all of that off, the whole section can now be removed, and I just had to disconnect the electrical components. At the minute, this isn't coming out because it's held on by the bracket on top, so I'm just going to loosen it off. There we go. And that's now disconnected, so just tighten this screws back on. Well, these are now disconnected. So they're out the way, and well, we've now got the windscreen exposed totally. So yeah, we can look to remove it now. So back to the equalizer. What a ridiculous name. So without further ado, and my PPE looking sharp, we unleashed the equalizer. And it was incredibly effective, starting off with some slow-mo shots, but you can see once I speed up the footage just how effortlessly it was separating the sealant from the glass. It did take a bit of time, around 45 minutes or so, but eventually it was ready to come out. I felt like at this point it would be a good idea to mark around the old sealant to make sure when I fit the new windscreen I know exactly where to lay down the new sealant. With the screen out, it was a good time to vacuum up the small bits of glass that had landed on the paper I learned from last time doing a DB11 that the glass just goes absolutely everywhere, so I laid down the paper to stop it going in the engine bay and interior. With the worst of the glass vacuumed up, I then folded the paper inwards and disposed of it. Now there is a reason I started with the windscreen first, and that's because I want to get this dash out, and I just felt like it was going to be a bit easier to work around the dash without the windscreen being in the way. So I thought, take the windscreen out. I'm not going to put the new one in just yet. I'm probably going to do that towards the end of the build, but now it should be a lot easier, and certainly easier to film as well. Me going in and taking out the dash. Now I'm doing the dash first because I'm going to send that off, and I imagine that will be away for a few weeks, 2-3 weeks. I don't know how long it takes to do the restitching. So I want to get that done first, so we can, by the time we've done the rest of the structural parts, fit the front end, new bonnet, etc., it'll just be a case of fitting this. So I'm hoping time-wise that's the most sensible way of doing it. So time to strip down the dash, and it's fair to say I've been a bit scared to begin this. There aren't exactly videos online of how to take the dash apart in a Ferrari California, so I was having to figure it all out as I went along. Sometimes the best thing to do though is just jump into it with both feet, but it wasn't long until I got stuck. Well, I'm drawing a bit of a blank here, if I'm honest, so gonna get the new airbag out and just see what that comes with. And that should give me a bit more of an idea how to take it apart. Well, here's the new airbag fresh out, and some of you will notice it is black as opposed to red. Well, to be honest, it didn't really bother me. I kind of feel like it works, so that's fine. It cost me $1,000 even for this one. If I was to get it red stitched, God knows how much it would have been. But that's the answer. So that whole bit needs to come off, this sort of yellow blue bit. And then it should connect on to the next one. I don't know if it's slightly melted on, but yeah, gonna see if I can get them off now. Sure enough, with a bit of prying off with my trim tool, in this case it was an Allen key, they both popped off. Just to show you, look at that. It's quite common that these do heat up in an accident anyway, so I've read. So that would explain that, but that's going anyway. As long as we can fit these new ones in, it should be good to go. Next up was to remove the steering wheel, which is held on with one large fixing screw, and it's a big one. What a beast that is. Go! Yay! Come on. This is kind of cool. Not gonna lie. In amongst the car like this. Now this, I need to make sure stays like that. That's it's called the cock spring. That, if I turn 360 degrees, it's going to confuse the computer. It's going to throw up all sort of like steering warnings, I believe. So I need to keep that like that. And well, I was close. It's called the cock spring, but anyway, I then just continued stripping down the parts. But then I had a thought, which is dangerous at the best of times, to be honest. Now what I'm thinking is this black section all the way around here, and sort of bits of red here, is all separate. There's a different part to this, or at least it looks like it. From the side, they all look like this. They're mounted separately onto the sort of chassis underneath, or the substructure. So I'm hoping I might be able to get away with just removing this top section here, rather than have to get into all the nitty-gritty of removing the whole dash, entertainment system, etc. So that's what I'm banking on. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping we can just start. Oh. Let's come off that top bit of the windscreen. I'm hoping, yeah, we can just start to undo some bolts and see if we can get a little bit of wiggling, but I am cross-referencing with some scooter rear diagrams as well, just to see how I'm getting on, but they're not too helpful, kind of trying to figure it out as we go. At this stage, I'm sure you get the point and what my process is. Start taking off more pieces, and I hope they reveal more screws that need to come out. This seemed to work pretty well, and bit by bit, the dash was coming apart. Needs to stay like that, I believe. Honestly, this is going to be a nightmare to try and remember. I'm literally taking so many photos and so many videos just to try and make it as foolproof as possible, but I still feel like somehow I'm going to skip something or miss something, and it's going to be a nightmare to put that together, but fingers crossed it's not. Hopefully. I must have taken about 100 photos and videos today. Hopefully that's enough. Well, we've freed up a lot by removing this in terms of bolts. That's good. I need that in there. As you can see, it's freed up a hell of a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 6 more bolts that we can undo to free up this top end. Which, yeah, we're going to give that a go and we're going to see how it's looking. Couldn't figure out how to disconnect this wire here. Weirdly, this just doesn't want to seem to release, no matter where I'm sort of pinching from. Just doesn't want to come out. It's really strange. So yeah, that's going to stay there for now. Interestingly, a lot of these just seem to be on clips, so just working my way through and around it and just seeing which ones need pulling off. And that has revealed one final bolt, and that would explain why this wasn't moving at all. So yeah, it's interesting to know a lot of this literally just clipped on. Seems almost a bit surreal, but there we go. So disconnect this. Here we go. Now that. Don't know if it's velcroed on again. There we go. That's loose, all sorted. Put it in the back with my mass collection of bits. And there we go, more bolts as well. God, it's like one thing after the other, isn't it, with this car? And as you can see now, we are completely loose this side, which is great. So there wasn't actually too many bolts. I'm really happy with that. But obviously we need to get into the rest of this, which I'm guessing is a case of pulling this back. But we'll find out tomorrow because it's 6:30 p.m. I'm hungry, so I'm going back for some food and to rest. And then we'll pick up where we left off tomorrow. See you then. Right, well, a new day here now, and to be honest, I'm pretty happy with progress so far. So being able to strip out, well, the windscreen actually took me quite a bit of time, and we didn't make too much of a mess. Then there's the inside, which I'm starting to strip down. I've done the steering side, the driver's side. So now to get onto the passenger side, try and get that dash out. Typically, sort of lovely day outside, nice and sunny. I thought, you know what, I'll drive the car out and I'll just work on it outside. But then of course, I've come in, remember that there's no steering wheel on there. So gonna have to keep it inside for now, but maybe once the dash is out and it's gone, I'll temporarily put the steering wheel back on the car. Hopefully that will work. And then I'll be able to work on this front end down here, actually outside in the sunshine, which would be really nice on another day. But sadly today, we're in the cold warehouse. So let's get into it. And well, this is where we got up to. So as you can see, we've removed the steering side and now all that part down there is loose. And then we've just got to start dismantling this side, and there's some bolts in the glove box and then down the side here as well. And as you can see, I've been collecting all the parts back here just because I don't want to lose them. If I keep them in the car, then I can't possibly accidentally vacuum it when vacuuming the warehouse or anything like that, like the bolts. So just keeping it in the car, I think that's the safest place. But we're going to just pick up from here and I'm going to start dismantling this end. Okay, so I've removed screw up here. And there's a screw here as well. I'll just spot in another there. And then we've got, you don't undo that one, but all the way under here, there's some screws. 1, 2, 3. It's a slightly longer screw for these two. And then working our way along here and removing all these screws. I think it's going to be these hex bolts here. There's 4 of them, there's 2 down there as well as there. Yeah, it's a bit hard to film all this. The angles are a bit difficult. I'm either blocking it, I can put the camera here and then I'm just blocking the camera. So kind of just skipping through this bit, charging the camera at the same time. I'm trying to keep you updated on what I'm taking apart. And yeah, hopefully this will start to get a bit easier to film and then I'll get the camera back out. So as I'm removing these, I've thought there was a secret bolt hidden here, so I might as well check the far side. And sure enough, there's one down here as well. So many bolts, but getting these ones undone. I'm just going to leave that one on there for a sec, because I think it might all drop down once I've got this bolt and that bolt out. Let's see. Well, that bolt is out and it's looking a lot more promising now. So should just be that final bolt in there and that should be glove compartment out. Only about 20 screws to get it all out. so fiddly. There we go. A little bit from this bottom section, which makes me think that's probably on clips. But then this top part, there's definitely some screws I still need to get. So gonna have to investigate a little bit more. And said investigation didn't take long though, as I realized the whole section that is stitched in red leather is just on clips with just a few screws by the infotainment system, one on top and two underneath. All right, so as you saw, we had one screw here and two screws underneath holding us in, and the rest is just on clips, which is kind of remarkable really. Well, I say that, I think there was a screw down here. But just got to disconnect all these connections now. Just remember which one's for which. And with a few photos taken so I can remember which connections go into which space, I then disconnected the connections and removed the red section before carrying on undoing yet more screws I can now access. Oh, still feels like there's one more screw somewhere. This feels good now, ready to go. But this side definitely feels like there's something resisting. I feel like this isn't for the dash, this is for like this substructure, so I don't think it's those. I've got a feeling somewhere in here there's another screw that I've not spotted. Well, you know what, of course it's going to be a nightmare, there's so many screws, but for me this is better than your average 9 to 5, so I'll take this every day working on a Ferrari, even if I have to do 1,001 screws just to get a bit of leather dash out. It is what it is. This side is just still not free, and I guess the only difference on this side is that we got the airbag, so seems like the airbag's bolted on somehow. And this is where it went a bit pear-shaped, if I'm honest. I couldn't see the airbag bolts, and in trying to remove the dash, I did split it down unintentionally into a few sections in order to get the dash fully out. Well, it wasn't particularly clean, but I do have the dash out now. I had to put it into sections and sort of cut the lever out. And then basically it was 4 bolts holding this airbag in, and then obviously I've still got to take the electric connectors out. And so what I've been doing is I've been looking online just for the upper dashboard trim, and if I close this off, so for a new upper part of the dashboard you would be looking at £2,520, and that's probably plus VAT, which is an insane amount. But there is a used one on there, which actually, well, looks in better condition than mine. For £729, and I'll see if I can show you that now. I mean, it looks certainly in better condition. Obviously, the leather is apart. I'm guessing the airbag's blown on that one as well, but it's in better condition, and I think that's something that it's in stock, we can go collect it straight away, and we can send it straight down to the shop. So I think I'm gonna go ahead with that. I think mine, I guess being the first time I've done a dash, it's just, yeah, I haven't done the tidiest job. And I think the key was obviously just knowing that you've got to unbolt the airbags. Had I done that, none of this damage probably would have been here. So I guess it's a £720 mistake it's going to cost me, but I do now know that next time I'm not going to make the same mistake, and it is all a learning experience. There aren't videos of people taking apart a California T dash, so it's all a learning experience. Well, that's sort of a bit of a bugger, I guess, but lesson learned on that. It is all a learning experience, and to be honest, even if it's going to set me 730 quid back, I'm still enjoying just learning about this car. It's great fun. I mean, it's a Ferrari, for goodness sake. How often, or who's going to ever get a chance to look inside a Ferrari like I am now? It's so fascinating, really enjoying it. And I'm gonna hold myself there, because after this I did actually have a look on Eurospares at that £2,500 dash I referred to, as I realized if the stitching was okay, this was actually going to be the cheaper option instead of having one restitched for 2,600. Sod's law though, it was left-hand drive. It did say there were a couple available though, so I jumped in the live chat just out of chance and asked if there was a right-hand drive one in similar condition. Sure enough, there was one that was hidden from regular view, not too sure why, and even better yet, they were happy to let it go for just £1,800, so that's an £800 saving on having the old one restitched. The lower bit is in a browny sort of orange shade, but I'm sure I can easily amend that with the right kit. This was a massive relief, as it meant my issues with taking the old dash apart wouldn't really matter, and I kind of got away with it there. Anyway, let's go back in time to me in the warehouse. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this episode. Like I say, we've got through quite a lot. I'm pretty happy with the progress, and albeit the slight mishap with taking that dashboard trim out, really happy with where we're going. So thank you so much for watching on this occasion. Obviously, if you haven't subscribed and you want to watch more, hit that red button down below. If you are a fan of the channel and you've been subscribed for a while, well, thank you firstly. But if you wouldn't mind also hitting that like button, I'm sure it'll help grow this channel a little bit quicker, and it'll mean I'm not having to get cheap dashboards in future. I can just pay for whole new ones. That would be really nice. That's the dream. But for now, we're having to keep it on a budget. But anyway, it's been Alex. Cheers for watching. Bye bye.